This one is called B complex 100s. It contains all the B's in just about the right concentration. I take one a day. This is that very important selenium. They're 200 micrograms each, and I like it, so I take 3 a day. It's a very important antiviral agent. There's my favorite, niacin. These are 500 milligram tablets of niacin. This is a bottle of 500. And I take 3 of these 3 times a day. Vitamin C, especially made in the States by a friend of mine who owned his own company called Energen C. I take 2 grams a day. 2 pills at noon and 2 pills at supper time. Vitamin A, each one is 10,000. These are over the counter. I take 3 of those. So I'm taking 30,000 units of vitamin A every day. N-acetylcysteine, called NAC. It helps the body make glutathione. It's a very important antioxidant. I take 1 gram, 2 of these 3 times a day. This one is coenzyme Q10. They're 100 milligrams each, and I take 3 of those a day. This is a very important muscle enzyme. It's good for cardiovascular disease. I use it against Parkinsonism, and it has other values too. I don't have those, but I take it to make sure I don't have them. Vitamin D, famous vitamin D. They're 1,000 units each, and I take 6 a day, whether I'm in the sun or not. Salmon oil for the essential fatty acids. They're 1 gram, and I take 2 a day. This is calcium magnesium. I take 2 a day. Zinc, very important. Zinc citrate. These are 50s, and I'm taking either 1 or 2 each day. Folic acid. Little yellow pill. These are 5 milligrams each. These are on prescription. And I don't write prescriptions anymore, but I have a supply from the past. I take 1 of these every day. Vitamin E, 400 units. This is the natural form. I take 1 in the morning, 1 at night. And the last one, alpha-lipoic acid, which protects the liver against all sorts of toxic effects. Very important. These are 200s. Yeah, these are 200. I take 3 a day. So that's the list. Adds up to about 500. Sorry. Seems like 500. It adds up to 50 pills a day. It's my personal regimen, and I don't recommend it for everyone. It might be good for some. It might not be good for others. It has to be totally individualized. And I've been working at this game for 50 years. I know pretty well what I should be taking.
Hi, this is Larry Hobbs at FatNews.com. Connie Littlefield at Conceptafilm.com and creator of the movie Feed Your Head gave me permission to repost this video clip. Again, this clip is an outtake from that movie, that DVD that's coming out. The reason I wanted to do that was to give a little background about Abram Hoffer, who he was, what an important guy he was, and also I wanted to add the titles on top of the video so you could actually see exactly the dosages of vitamins and minerals that he was taking. So anyway, a little bit about Dr. Hoffer. He died in 2009. He was either 91 or 92. And Dr. Hoffer was an MD, PhD, and the author of the book Healing Schizophrenia. It's about using vitamins to treat schizophrenia. He also wrote the book Feel Better, Live Longer with Vitamin B3, which is niacin. Another interesting thing about this, in a recent speech he gave at an orthomolecular conference, he told about patients, cancer patients, that he had given large doses of niacin to, and they ended up living longer. So there was actually a conference recently about using niacin as an anti-cancer agent. He was also co-author of the book Orthomolecular Medicine about megavitamin therapy for different diseases. Dr. Hoffer is the person who discovered that niacin raises HDL levels. He also noted that niacin is not a cholesterol-lowering agent, as most people think, but rather a cholesterol-normalizing agent. In other words, when cholesterol levels are too high, it lowers them, but when they are too low, it raises them. Now, in the West, the drug companies would like you to believe that cholesterol is a terrible thing and you want to get it as low as possible, but this is ridiculous. Cholesterol is necessary for life. You want your cholesterol levels to be normal. You don't want them to be too high. You don't want them to be too low. You just want them to be normal. Abram Hoffer also discovered that niacin, along with other nutrients and some other changes, can cure schizophrenia in many cases. And I know this sounds unbelievable if you've never heard this before. I first heard of this a few years ago. I read an interview with Dr. Hoffer in Life Extension magazine, and I was extremely skeptical. But then I bought several of his books. I bought a bunch of speeches he gave at orthomolecular conferences in the last few years. I listened to him describe exactly how he discovered this, exactly how this worked, his experience over the last 50 years, and I am a believer now. So that is a little bit about Dr. Hoffer. A little bit more about this film called Feed Your Head by Connie Littlefield. So let me read some from their website, what this film is about. Psychiatrists Abram Hoffer and Humphrey Osmond met in Saskatchewan, which is in Canada, in 1951, and embarked on a quest to do what traditional psychiatry deemed impossible, to find a cure for schizophrenia. Their primary contribution to psychiatry was a theory about treating people suffering from mental illness using nutrition. Hoffer and Osmond set out to prove that these symptoms of schizophrenia could be controlled with healthy, unprocessed food and large doses of vitamins. Linus Pauling was an American scientist, a peace activist, and two-time Nobel Prize-winning author and educator. Pauling and Hoffer became friends and together advocated for megadoses of niacin, vitamin C, and other nutrients in the treatment of all kinds of diseases. Dr. Hoffer also told an interesting story in one of his speeches about how they met. After Linus Pauling won his Nobel Prize in chemistry, I believe, was the first one that he won. He had some sleep problems and what you might call some mental problems. So he was at a dinner party. He saw Dr. Hoffer's book about treating schizophrenia with large doses of vitamins on some woman's coffee table where he was over at their house. He asked if he could borrow this book, stayed up all night, read this book, and became friends with Dr. Hoffer. So, interesting story. But anyway, Linus Pauling came up with the name orthomolecular for this new yet ancient form of treatment. Orthomolecular means the right molecules in the right amounts. And let me expand on this just a little bit. Orthomolecular, Linus Pauling said orthomolecular involves using substances which are naturally present in the body to treat and cure disease. So this even does not include herbs because they are not naturally present in the body, but includes vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids. Hoffer, Osmond, and Pauling were way ahead of their time. Their work coincided with a general movement towards de-institutionalization in mental health, that is, releasing patients back into the community with no real support system. This was also the dawn of the age of big pharma. Multinational pharmaceutical corporations sprung up in the 1950s and 60s, introducing new antipsychotic drugs that made it possible to control, if not actually help, the mentally ill. Consumers put their faith in the idea of the magic bullet, and since then, psychiatry has been largely controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. For their efforts, Hoffer, Osmond, Pauling, and hundreds of like-minded doctors were condemned by their peers. And this is so true. Look on the internet for Dr. Hoffer, niacin, and treating schizophrenia, and you will read these articles. Oh, gee whiz, this has been disproven by these various studies and various groups. But realize the drug companies would lose tens of billions of dollars if this were to get out. So they will say that this is nonsense for as long as they possibly can. So, but anyway, she goes on to note, the tide is turning. A growing wave of consumer demand is driving an orthomolecular resurgence. Doctors and patients are being slowly won over by the simple idea that makes more sense every day. We are what we eat.